The virtual real estate investing podcast. Frank, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm super pumped. We have our friend, Army football alumni, and our essentially our CFO on the podcast today. We've been meaning to have him on for about 2 months, and we finally got Larry here. Larry Dixon, how you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here and to do this finally.
Okay, I'm going to put you on blast right off the bat. Everyone that heard you are CFO, accountant, numbers person, they're about to just go next episode. So you better make sure this is super entertaining. Are you ready for this, Larry?
This is what I was born to do. Make numbers fun. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I think this is the greatest subject not talked about. So I'm ready to get after it.
All right, man. So tell me about your business today. What is it? What are you doing?
So again, a little bit about myself. I tried to get to the accounting world. It's super hard. People are kind of a little stuck up. It's like, hey, you need 5 years experience. So I was like, hey, I can't find a job. So let me just see if I can do it. So I started a little boutique firm. I started off with 4 clients. This year, we've pushed up upwards of 80 clients. And then I took it on a lot of outsourced work. So this year individually, I personally oversaw over 312 tax returns. And that's a combination of S corps, personal, and business. And so like if a tax person hears that, they're like, that's nothing, but like definitely growing. So definitely happy to be in the space.
And you're doing this while you have another job.
Yes. So basically I do have a 9 to 5. So my days pretty much, I wake up at 5 a.m. I go work out with the kids, and then I am an Army guy for 9 to 5. And then I come home about 6. Then I work from about 6 to 10, and some nights in tax season about 6 to 2 a.m.
Fun.
So I'm gonna go in aggressive.
Let's do it.
I think we've worked with a couple different accountants, CPAs, whatever, and I'll be honest. I think most of them suck. And I also think most of them are boring. What do you think in 2021? What makes you good, or what makes a good like outsourced CFO, CPA in 2021 for real estate investors?
I think for real estate investors, like specifically in this sector, if you want someone that's in the space. So like I see a lot of people make a mistake where they go to the CPA and like they know the laws, right? They know the accounting, but they don't know anything about investing. So there's no pitfalls, right? Like people go into accounting because it's a job that like nobody wants to do. So it's fairly lucrative because there's just a small supply and a massive demand. Everyone has to do a tax return. So what happens is you have people that go into the space, they don't even like the job. Like I talk to so many accountants that are just like, I can't even wait to quit. And I'm just like, I'm flabbergasted. Like I literally get giddy when someone's like, hey, can you look over my tax return? Can you look over my income statement? I just get elated. So the problem that you ran into is you got stale people that don't like interacting with people. That's why they're working in accounting in the first place. It's an easy job, so they're not trying to be better. And that combination gives you just a bad product. Who are they competing with? So if you're a real estate investor looking for a CPA, like the first thing above all else, this one's different. You need a CPA, an accountant, a tax person that invests because they know the pitfalls, they know the depreciation, they know what to look for, and they know what to look like when you're doing it wrong, right? Because you see it on the internet, I'm sure. You can research anything, but like what you get on there is kind of a mishmash, right? Laws change, and like, it was just overhauled in 2017, so everything's different. So by having someone who's investing, they can easily point out like, hey, you're doing this wrong, and then you'll just get way more enthusiasm for your sector. And like that's why I can't impress enough just to find people who love doing what they do. Because again, as you guys have seen, talking over numbers is most people's least favorite thing to do, but it's the most fun and the most important thing in the business.
And then what do you actually do? And the reason I say that is I think a lot of people just go to like, hey, so he does your taxes. But when we say outsource CFO, I think it means a lot more than that. So what does it mean to you? Like, what is it that you can do for a business or an investor?
So whenever I talk to an investor, when I talk to someone just kind of in the space, wholesaler, real estate agent, I'm really going to do 3 things, right? You have the top of your funnel, right? We're going to increase the amount of money, right? And when I say increase the amount of money, I'm not going to work in your job, but I'm going to help you identify the KPIs, key performance indicators, the things that are going to help you increase the amount of revenue you make, right? That's the first thing you do because you can't have a business without money flowing in. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to really refine your costs, right? A lot of businesses get bloated, right? Whether that's administrative costs, that's fancy things, the new computer, the over expensive cars. So I'm going to work with you to understand like, hey, what costs are necessary so you can have an efficient business, right? And at the bottom, that's going to give you net profit. And that's when I get to do my favorite job, which is we're going to help you mitigate and avoid taxes, right? I personally think everyone should pay taxes, but I never think anyone should pay $1 more than they have to. So that's really what I like to get after.
Yeah, I love that. And real estate investors have a lot of opportunities to mitigate their tax burden.
100%.
Out of all asset classes, it's pretty awesome. I think a lot of people know about depreciation, so I don't want to talk depreciation. But like, you have some creative stuff that you've instructed us to do. Like, what is one or two things someone who's making 100, 200 grand a year in their real estate company, what could they do?
So we have to identify, are these real estate investors or are these wholesalers real estate agents?
We'll go with wholesalers first because I
Too
think
easy. Wholesalers, the best thing they can do is it's really a three-pronged approach, right? Because I used to throw out numbers and people look at me and they get confused, like, what do you mean? And so it's super simple. The first $0 to $20,000, you just go. Don't worry about an LLC. Don't worry about lawyers. Don't worry about your entity structure. Go get me a proof of concept. Because I can't tell you how many people come up to me like, hey, I'm going to start a business. They take an hour of my time. They pay for an hour of my time. They pay for a lawyer. They do all this stuff. So they're thousands of dollars in the hole. They haven't even started getting a house. Like, you guys understand, if you're not closing contracts and us getting the assignment fee, you're not really a wholesaler. You're just really having a great conversation. So take that first $0 to $20,000, proof of concept. The next step is to get the LLC, right? And this is not a tax strategy, but this is going to lead into the first big tax strategy you can do. The LLC allows you creativity in the tax world, but it's mainly a legal structure. It's separating you from your business. And that's going to lead us to an S corp. So if you are a wholesaler and you're making over 40 to 60K in profit, then the best thing that you can do is establish an S corporation. And what the S corporation allows you to do is to pay yourself a wage and then pay yourself a distribution. And that distribution is going to start to bypass that 15.3% self-employment tax. And that's where most people really start getting hemmed up in the beginning. The second thing that you could do, and this is the most boring, no one likes it, but it's the most important thing, is you have to have clean books. You have to have an income profit statement. You have to know where your money's going, because I can't advise you on anything if I don't see that you have a consistency in measurements of your numbers.
And then how does someone get their books in order, right? I've seen real estate investors, and myself included, have been like kind of paralyzed by like, oh my goodness, I have to get my books in order for months and months. What does someone do in that situation?
The easiest way to do it. So just get on an Excel sheet. You don't need money. You don't even need to pay people at first. I implore everyone when they're starting, force yourself to understand your numbers, because the worst thing you can do is run a business and not know what's coming through. Just open up an Excel sheet and literally just number it 1 through 10, right? 1 through 100, however many transactions, right? And then you say, you get a rent check, you get an assignment fee closed, you literally put the amount, and then you put rent assignment fee right next to it. You have an expense, you literally put the expense and then the category next to it, right? And that's just the bare essentials to a profit and loss statement. And what that's going to allow someone like me to do, someone who's coming in at the end of the year to help you, or just you at the end of the year, is you can just group everything, right? Like, all a profit and loss statement is a grouping of your revenues and your expenses together. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to pay $100 for a software system. You can literally open up Excel, group your revenues, group your expenses, and then that's going to give you a net profit. And then you can start measuring, and we can go from there.
I love that. One thing I wanted to touch on in terms of if there's something you advised us to do, is creating the personal LLCs once you have an up and running business. I wanted to talk about that opportunity because as a first-time business owner, I did not know about that, but I'm starting to look at the deductions I'm getting because I'm starting to spend money in my personal account, and I'm like, man, it's pretty sizable, right? So can you talk about that a little bit?
No, 100%. I think everyone in the business, especially wholesalers, real estate agents, we're in a place in the world where everyone's doing multiple things, right? For you guys have a podcast. You guys obviously have the wholesaling business. You guys are probably going to get asked to speak at some point. You're going to want to be a partner in somebody else's business. And so what happens is you'll have 4 or 5 different activities. And what you never want is to create 4 or 5 different S corporations, because that's just going to increase the amount of admin costs you have at the end of the year. So what I implore you guys to do, and what I tell everyone to do, is to turn yourself into Disney, right? You'll notice that Disney, Google, those are holding companies, right? They have the big company and they own a ton of little small ones, and everything funnels down to the beginning. So what I implore you to do is to create an LLC, have all your active income flow from the wholesaling, from the podcast, from the speaking engagements down to the bottom LLC. And then when you come to me, we're just going to do tax mitigation at the lowest level for the highest amount of efficiency and the lowest amount of money. And a lot of CPAs and a lot of enrolled agents don't tell people to go this route because they lose money, right? Because each S corp return they would do is going to be X amount of dollars. So if you go from 5 to 1, I cut your costs in half, but I've cut my revenues, or sorry, I cut your costs by 80%, but then I've also cut my revenue from you by 80%. So a lot of people don't want to do that. And again, when you get to people who don't love what they do, it becomes a money grab, and then we're not benefiting you anymore.
Yeah. So, but to simplify it, right? It's like Gray Line pays Frank.
Yep.
Or my company, right? My personal
100%.
company. And then I deduct my shit from that pay, you know?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's
100%. Everything flows down into Frank LLC and John LLC. And then all your deductions, instead of coming out of the business, the Gray Line, it just comes out of Frank LLC and John LLC. So it's simple for you. You don't have to talk to John about expenses that you have because it's just coming out of your portion.
Yeah. And like Frank LLC has different expenses than Gray Line, AKA my car, right? Like my
100%.
food, some of my meals, travel for my yearly meetings, like all that stuff. So for anyone listening, like, you know, that's thousands of dollars, right? So like, that's something that you've definitely helped us with.
100%. It's my second favorite strategy.
Mm-hmm. And then what, you know, Frank's alluding to some of that, but what are those tax mitigation strategies within that LLC and then the write-offs, right? Like, I feel like everyone wants to beat around the bush when it comes down to like, what can I write off and what can I not write off? So you don't have to say it in absolutes for us, Larry, but give us a feel for like, what the hell can we write off and what can't we write off?
See, and this is a crazy thing. Like literally when I look at if you can write something off, the only thing I'm looking at is it ordinary and necessary for your business. So the real question is, what can you justify as what do you need, right? Like there's people that are, Grant Cardone bought a $60 million jet. So obviously you can see that the amount of money isn't the thing they're looking at. It's what is going to propel your thing forward. So the things that I tell people to look for are travel is a big thing that people don't look for, the cell phone that you use and the car that you drive, the things that you're already doing, you can have written off on you, and then you can get that discount just by it being a tax deduction.
And then what about if I do get audited, right? Like the travel, how do I, you know, like, is my wife's travel too? You know, is my wife's part of the business, or cell phone? Is it split? Like this cell phone is only used for business or it's used for personal, or because I'm a personality on a podcast, is everything business?
And so that's why, again, you see people that do a lot, they're always traveling to charity, they're always traveling to business event, they're always doing work. And so again, it's the ultimate gray area, especially for real estate people, because if you were to fly into Indianapolis, Indiana, but you're looking for properties, you work that entire weekend. That is a legal work weekend. If your wife is working in the business and she's the one collating all the invoices that you have going out, and she's the one that's putting together all your paperwork from all the insurance forms that organize all the contracts, she's working in the business. So then her travel could then be a part of your travel as well and can be tax deductible. And that's what I'm saying. And that's why people have the family businesses. That's why they make them expansive, so that when the family travels, you can write it off. Where people go wrong is when you kind of get into the gray area, where if you don't know, but you keep going, right? Like pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered. And so that's like the only way that I could have in managing it. But it's tough for me to say, hey, like, what's the containment? Because really, if you read the tax code, ordinary and necessary is the thing that they constantly hammer home. And a lot of things can be ordinary and necessary. Like you, again, if you're a contractor and you buy a bulldozer, like you could need that, even though that I could think that's egregious. And so that's why I think having that CFO, that accountant, that tax person is so good to have in your pocket on the daily, so that you can have the back and forth. Because I would rather my clients just text me and be like, hey, what, like I want to do X, like, is it tax deductible? I want to travel. How is that tax deductible? And then I can just have a 3-minute talk with them on how to coach them through it, instead of A, doing something wrong, or B, the worst thing ever, missing on an opportunity for a tax deduction.
I love how doing something's wrong is not the worst thing ever. The worst thing ever is missing out on a tax deduction.
It's my biggest pet peeve. I see it all the time. Like I'll do a bunch of people's tax returns. I'll be like, hey, like, I don't see your insurance on your 1098, your mortgage consolidation form. Like, where's it at? Because like, I don't want people to miss out on those couple of dollars, because again, that bottom line, the taxes is always going to be the person's biggest expense. So if I can help people reduce that at all, I know that I'm reinvesting back in their business. I know I'm reinvesting and allowing them to invest in retirement. And so for me, like there's just tertiary value adds that I take a lot of pride in being the person that can help in.
I love it. I want to ask for one more quick win. Like, what's one more tax strategy someone could utilize? They got their business, it's a year old, or maybe someone's starting one. Like, what's one feather they could put in their cap to save a little bit of money?
Oh, and this one, so this is one of my favorite strategies, and it's like not known but super known, but it doesn't apply to everyone. But if you have kids and your kids start to get older, right, and really around 4, you could start hiring them in your business. It doesn't have to be insane. Like you guys don't have to have your kids making cold calls, although I think that would be awesome. But you don't have to have your kid cold calling. It could be helping organize the office. It could be helping you put together your profit and loss statements, organizing your expense sheets to enter them in. And the cool thing happens when you pay your kid, right? Every single person in America has a standard deduction of $12,400. So if you pay them less than $12,400, there's no federal tax liability for them. Well, since you pay your kid and the kids under 17, they also don't have a self-employment liability. There's no FICA liability, no payroll or Social Security liability for them. So you also save on that 15.3%. So when you pay your kid, you're taking that 30 to 40% deduction and they're not paying any taxes. So you get to take the deduction past them, and then you can just use the money you pay them to pay for the other activities that they do. Like I have clients paying their kids $400 a month. I mean, it's tough. They own a landscape business, so they landscape, but they pay them $400 a month, and that's what pays for their select soccer stuff. So that all the stuff that they would have paid for as parents anyways is now tax deductible from the business. And so it's those kind of creative strategies that I help layer on. That's, again, one of my favorites that I help layer on so that, again, we make their life a part of your business. Because as you guys already understand, this business is a big part of your life. It is another child. And I'm sure on a level, it is your second lives. Because again, you guys spend an extraordinary amount of time here.
Right. And do you have to open up a bank account for the kid then?
So,
or send the money to that account?
So yeah, you would just open up, usually it's going to be joint, depends on what bank you have, but just open up a joint account with you and your kid and then have your business just pay them. If it's an S Corp, there's a little bit different structure to it, but it's going to be the same process of you pay your kid, but the company pay the family management company, and the family management company pays the kid. And it's just a simple transfer. And then in the memo, you just write paycheck for this week to this week, and then good to go. And then at the end of the year, again, we can create a W-2, and what the W-2 is going to allow us to do is allow them to open up Roths. So now kids are opening up Roths at ages 10, ages 8, which is just 10 years of investing before they go to college. That's insane. You get into a self-directed IRA, it's out of this world. We can just, again, we just stack wins on top of this.
Yeah, you can make your kid a millionaire really, really quick.
100%.
It's perfect because I have a 2.5-year-old that's negotiating a self-storage deal right now. So this is big.
100. See, and like it's crazy to think about. You could send your kid to college owning an 8-plex. Like, are they worried about as much as the other kid? There's no way.
Yeah, that's big time, man. I like that.
I understand all this, but it feels kind of overwhelming at the same time though. What do you recommend to someone to stay organized, to not become overwhelmed, to make sure they're getting the most, juice out of the squeeze, but they're not getting to that point where they're trying to do too much?
So the first thing is everybody should be taking at least 2 days out of the month. If you're starting a business, right, you're a real estate investor, take 2 days out of the month and organize all your stuff. Like get your receipts, keep them organized, right? Get your spreadsheet, make sure all the expenses and incomes are on the spreadsheet. And that organization is going to help you get rid of the anxiety. It's also going to save you money when you hand me collated, organized things at the end of the year. I'm not going to charge as much. Any CPA, accountant, tax person is not going to charge you near as much because you're organized. The second thing I've noticed that people, when they're in that 0 to 40 range, when money, you just kind of don't know, they don't ever seek help. And so I always encourage people to pay money, even if it's just for education, like $300 to a person who's a strong real estate tax person, strong real estate CPA, whoever it is going to save you so much time, effort, money, and then prevent you from making mistakes. And again, the worst thing that you could do is they'll help you not miss on tax deductions that are out there. And so that's my biggest thing is I would pay for consultation. Like I'm growing a business, but I pay to get in front of smart people like this. Like when I didn't know how to do something in real estate, I came to you guys. Like I got in front of experts. People don't do that in the accounting world because they think it's so confusing. B, we're losing great people every single year and great people aren't coming in. And then C, there's just kind of like, it's a waste of money, right? I don't know where that misnomer came from, but like those are the two things. Like keep yourself organized seek early help and don't ask for task help. And I'm sorry, I've gone too long on this. I know, but this is my pet peeve. Don't ask for help on taxes after the year's over. We can't help you. All we can do is keep you compliant. I can't save you any money in 2021 in January of 2022 because everything that we could have done, it's too late to do.
The thing is, there is a lot of accountants and CPAs that honestly aren't great. I think what you just kind of outlined is like almost like questions to ask when you're interviewing your CPA, right? And the question for anyone listening, the question I think to ask is, what are you doing to learn now, right? Like, what are you doing to learn? So you mentioned it before. It's important to stay educated and you get in front of people. What are you doing this year in 2021 to stay actively educated and on top of your stuff?
So me personally, it's like an automatic rule. I take right now 25 to 35% of all my income and I invest in learning. So there's seminars to go to. Unfortunately, most everything I do is virtual, but like I'm also going to events in Florida at the end of the year to where I can meet with I pay for time. So if my client asks me a question that I don't know it cold, I pay for the time with a CPA or lawyer to get the answer. And that allows me to, again, to do two full things. Like A, I'm going to learn something that I think is going to come up again. B, I'm forcing myself to get exposure to people who I feel are elite in the level, because what I tell people is like, hey, my network of lawyers and CPAs is going to be way stronger than your networks of lawyers and CPAs. And so I kind of utilize them. And at the same time, I'm not bashful against paying to get in front of them because time is money. And if you want to talk to someone whose time is worth a lot, you're gonna have to pay for it. And that's kind of something I've accepted this year. And the last thing is just, again, other higher learning and education. So again, I'm working to get into law school so that I can, again, grow my firm to the level that I think it needs to be at.
And let's go back to the beginning now. Okay. You've been hitting home runs already. I think as long as you don't screw up the second half of this podcast, we'll probably ask you to come back. Okay. How'd you get started? What's your story? You're a very smart guy, seem very curious, thirst for knowledge. You got the entrepreneurial bug, the investing bug at some point. Tell me that story, man.
So it really starts back at West Point. I went to prep school because I wasn't smart. And I found out, yes, I'm telling you, it's just, we held it down. Last class at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. I found out I'd never done taxes. I never knew anything about taxes. The only thing I knew is you do your taxes and you get money. And so I knew that, like, I'll do my taxes and then I'll get money. That's all I knew. And then I was just like, well, wait, hey, I can control this to make more money. So at West Point, I would spend tons of time like, okay, how can I increase my return? Not knowing I wasn't doing anything at the time, not knowing that, it wasn't fraudulent, but I wasn't doing anything that would affect my return. But I just kept learning. After I left West Point, I was just like, hey, I've always wanted to work for myself, right? I feel like it would be awesome. I have a lot of admirement for other entrepreneurs. I listen to all the podcasts, I need to start a business. And then what happened was from 2015 to 2018, I just failed, right, at everything. I tried to be a strength and conditioning coach, found out I didn't want to train people. I just want to work out. I thought I was going to be like a fitness model. Turns out I don't like to take pictures. I thought I was going to be a photographer. Turns out I have no eye for photography. I thought I was going to be a graphic designer. Wasn't be a graphic designer. I thought I was going to be a coder. I don't like to code. And so, but what happened is through all these failures, I would have to learn how to do my own taxes, right? And, I consult with people, but I had the same mindset as people. I was like, I have to do this myself. So then I would learn the tax code. I would have okay, what is depreciation versus capitalization? When can I expense? Okay, it's on $2,500. Cool. And then I would start answering more questions from my friends. And then one day, one of my friends was just like, hey, can you just do this for me? And I said, and in that moment, I literally Googled, what does it take to do people's taxes? And it literally a slew of requirements. And I had most of them because I had my bachelor's degree and I had already had certain requirements hit. And so I was like, I absolutely can. So then I took in 2018, I basically hustled for a week, did all the requirements, and I had my first client and my first business. So he was paying me $7 a month to take care of pretty much everything. And it wasn't a lot of money, but I was just like, okay, well, now I'm at least making money to learn, right? So I'm learning for other people's money. And then from that point on, it's been basically just taking every dollar I can and putting it back in education and kind of grow and then get in front of people.
I love that, man. It's like, don't wait to strike till the iron's hot. Make the iron hot by striking,
100%. And again, you guys kind of do it. Obviously we're close. I've known you guys forever. Obviously John mentored me when I was at Bullock, didn't let me read any books, but you guys I like you guys because you guys just go. And that's how I kind of like to live my life, is I like to just go, and then we'll build the ship on the way down. And that's what I've always admired about you guys, is you guys didn't always know the right direction, but you guys were always moving. And you're like, hey, like if we make money, if we keep moving, if we never get stagnant, we'll get there. And like, obviously you guys are a huge success now. You guys are growing, have the podcast, you guys are kind of blowing up. So that's cool.
Well, it's you're kind of coming full circle to another point you made earlier. It's like everyone's like worried about asset protection, and they're worried about like books and LLCs and all this stuff. And it's like, guys, like the whole world should just be like, until you have revenue coming in the door, you don't have a business, you know? Like that's the bottom line. You got to, whatever your sales is, sell, you know, whatever your core process is, execute the process. That's it.
100%. It's like, I hear people say all the time, like the only person who's never going to be jobless is a great salesman, because everyone needs great salesmen. And like, I hear it all the time. People come in and like, they don't try to outsmart me, but they come in like, oh, you know, my KPIs are tight. Hey, like I have this, and they have all these sophisticated structures, and they have an entire page. I'm like, all right, this is awesome. Like, let's get after it. I'm like, okay, where's your profit and loss? And I look at it, and they have $8,000 in revenue, and they're negative $60,000 on the year. I was like, hey, this isn't a business, man. Like, you just shoveled a lot of money into this. And so that's what I've kind of told people. I'm just like, go make $20,000 doing the thing. It's fine. I was like, the problems that you think you have, you don't make enough money to have yet. And so like the sophisticated layering that you need, the thousands and thousands of dollars, they have a place, but most people just need to go make $20,000, and then we'll talk about it.
So yeah, I love it. I wanted to touch on the future for Larry Dixon. So you mentioned you're going to get your law degree, and you obviously are already a CPA. You have all the credentials you probably need at that point. What is the future of your organization?
Like the dream for me. So like this goes back to like my mom when she was growing up. Like I saw her like navigating the finance world, and like you guys said, like especially taxes, it's very convoluted. I wouldn't say it's hard. Any person could do it, but it's a lot, right? So now for you guys, specifically people like you're wasting time trying to learn. Well, there's some people who aren't as smart and then don't have the resources. And my mom didn't have the resources, so I watched her struggle. So like it kind of inspired me to want to create what's called a bail firm, which is like there's 4 real tenets of finances. There's banking, accounting and taxes, insurance, and legal. And I want to be able to be certified to do all that, and then capture all that knowledge from the highest level, and then push it down so that everyone can have the help they need navigate, at least at their echelon. I don't feel like it should be this war for you to understand how to do your tax. I don't think it should be a war to learn how to set up an LLC. So I want to make that easier.
And I would like to go on record. I know I've told you this before, but I think you should not be the best accountant you could be. I think you should own the best accounting services company you can. So I don't think you should go to law school or any other school. I think you should be the head of the company, and you should hire great lawyers and great accountants. And I know I've been telling you that for years and years, but as you potentially struggle with this decision of do you go to law school or not, I'm like, hey man, what you have right now is an awesome business that continues to grow. I would double down on that.
And that's been kind of the schism. I've always feel like, and again, you guys have been great mentors, obviously, to me, business, real estate. And that's been like the real rub. It's just like, whenever I don't know, I always want to go back to school. So that's kind of our crossroads right now, is like, am I going to law school? And I think what I've kind of accepted, that if I do go to law school, I want it like a T14 school. I think it's just going to be go to the school that allows me to spend the most time on my business. Because like, I talk to a lot of lawyers, I talk to a lot of CPAs, like school doesn't teach you to do anything. And it's what I impress on people now, like business people who are just like, especially like coders, right? Like I have people making $100,000 coding, and like, okay, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm just like, stop. And like school doesn't teach you anything. It's like the certifications, the continuing educations, it's being in the field. And so like that ideology, that theology is rubbing against the theology of like getting the certification to sign the piece of paper. So it's gonna be interesting.
I mean, you're also young enough where either approach is likely to work. You know, yeah. I think the advantage you're going to have, and that you do have, is that you're good at selling and have good interpersonal skills in a field where it's very limited, right? Like it's just like there's a lot of people that can sell that work in real estate, like John and I. Like it's like kind of like a prerequisite in your space. Like, hey man. The blue ocean.
It's crazy. And again, I'll say it again. I've been flabbergasted how many people don't like it. Again, I light up doing this stuff. Like I get giddy when I learn stuff. Like when I learn the loophole or when I learn the strategy, like I get amped. Like my hands start sweating. I get super pumped.
And tell us what you do in real estate investing right now, because before we hit record, sounds like you're kind of crushing it, man. So tell us about that.
So again, I have you guys to thank. So we obviously met. Oh, again, me and John met 2016, but I joined your guys' real estate group, and I wasn't really doing anything. And then Frank came in. He's just like, I have this 500K challenge. He's just like, who can raise $500,000? Like, it was the fastest, and then it turned into like, it was like easy. Everyone said it was easy, which was crazy. And then he's like, okay, who can raise the most money, the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time? And so in that time, I took that challenge more serious than I ever taken in my life. And so from that, which was about 5 months ago, I closed on 4 properties. One's a plot of land that we'll build on, and then we have 3 flips under renovation. And we're finally going to finish our first flip. My partner and I are going to finish our first flip on next Wednesday. We'll list it. And so it's really you guys, and it's really like you guys kind of, one of the first things you guys ever said, you guys are just like, stop trying to be good at things that you're bad at. And I just really like, I heard that, and I don't know why when you guys said that, like it hurt my feelings, but like it really changed my whole perspective. So like letting go of the want to manage the flips has really let me find a great partner, and again, led to some success. So
it's not that you're bad at it. It's just that like, dude, you have a 9 to 5, you have 332 taxes you have to worry about, right? You're in a mastermind. Like, dude, you already stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning. It is what it is, man. You just don't have any time. But hey, for inspiration, since this is a new endeavor for you and you're about to list that property, what are you expecting to take home on that, if you're willing to share the numbers?
No, absolutely. So we had 4 comps that we pulled, and the last 4 comps that we pulled, and they all came the last, I think latest one's like 6 weeks ago at 220. If we get that number, we would have made 60K on it. So it's a big first flip. Like it's a good first number. It's right about, it's where we were dreaming. It was like our dream number. Like, you know, you have your analysis, you're like, oh, probably hit here, but if it hit here, this is amazing. So if it does sell for that, we're amped, super excited.
That's one of those numbers that you have to get a picture of the check and put it on Instagram, right? Like if it's over 30K, it's got to be an Instagram check, right?
No, 100%. Like it seems crazy because like I spent a lot of time, and that's what's like crazy about you guys is like I spent a long time like thinking this world was foreign, but like I was with you guys for like 2 months, and I was like, I'm here now, and like I've had people now like come up to me like soldiers, people I work with, like, hey, like how are you doing this? And it's like crazy. I was just like, hey, like honestly. And I'll explain like the program you guys had. They're like, okay, how do I get in? And I was like, they shut it down. They're like, what? And I was just like, yeah, I'm so sorry. And like, I was like, I could try to help, but I just end up regurgitating like pretty much the find, fund, finish. And I literally just tell people all the time. And like, everyone's like, what do you like? I found the property. They're like, funded. Like, how you gonna find it? I was like, I don't know, but I'm gonna fund it. Like, I'm on step 2. And then they're like, well, what? And everyone like, it's crazy. Like all the things I used to ask, like, I don't know, but I'm gonna finish because I found it. We funded it. Here we are. So it's really you guys.
Awesome. And have you changed your mind, or like, how has your mind evolved in the last 5 months, the way you're kind of crushing it? Meaning, right, like you had some, I'm sure, preconceived notions about what it's like to be a real estate investor. And now that you've really doubled down in this space, how has your mind shifted having been in it a little more?
It's one of you guys said it. I don't know. It's like one of our first things. I don't deal with people who tell me no. I don't deal with people who tell me they can't. Like if any negative comes in at all, like we almost lost a property, and then 4 days later we closed on it through a different mortgage company. So I think the biggest thing is like, instead of dwelling on changing people from no to yes, I just move on. And I think that's been huge even for my business. Like instead of convincing someone to sign up with me, like, hey, you charge too much, instead of negotiating, I'm just like, okay, next person. And instead of dealing with a mortgage company, it's like, I don't like it. They have too many terms, it's overwhelming. Like they don't like the property. I'm just like, if you don't believe in it, that's fine. I'm just gonna move on. And so like refusing to deal with people who tell me no has just allowed me to save time and then get in front of people who are willing to tell me yes. Because again, if someone says yes, but do this, is a way different is than no, but maybe if you do this, like, and so like those mentalities, like I'm really sensitive to those. So like, and like, it's crazy. Cause like I tell my, like, for example, I'm running Ironman. I told my friends, they're like, great, let's do it. I'll help you train. It's amazing what positive energy can do. And so that, or recognizing that, or just moving towards that has changed everything in our real estate life.
Great stuff. Okay. So let me do our quick commercial, and then I'll let everyone know where they can find you. So my commercial is, we're still buying deals. We still want to be your cash buyer. Send it to us. Deals at greatlineinvestments.com. That goes for you too, Larry. You find any deals, I want to close them, baby. Number 2 is go to vrei.co. Make sure you get on our newsletter. Frank and I are about to start a 30-day writing challenge, and we're really trying to put out a bunch of value in that. newsletter goes out every week. So vrei.co, go there and sign up. And if you like this podcast, we would love a review. Last time I checked, we still only have 18 reviews. We would love to get to 19 and be able to report on that. But Larry, this was awesome, man. You came out of the gate strong. You gave us a lot of good stuff. The second half was also very good. Really enjoyed it. I think you passed the test. I think, we got Josh Miller is a guy we like to bring back, every quarter or so. I think you may be on that short list now where we need to keep bringing you back. But so question for you, if someone wants help with their books, if someone wants help with, tax strategy, if someone wants a outsourced CFO and they like what you've said, how can they get in touch with you and speak to you about potentially becoming a client?
Unfortunately, right now, the website's reworking because, again, we have that partnership coming with BotKeeper. So right now, the best way to reach me is just Larry, my first name, the tax guy on Instagram. It's been crazy. That's been how people reach out the best. It's the easiest to find me, and I'll usually get back to you within like 48 hours. So if you have any questions, Larry, the tax guy, if it's just a random question that you want to put out there, I do my best to answer everything because, again, my ultimate passion is just make sure everyone knows the directions to go.
So Larry, the tax guy on Instagram. Are you monitoring an email address? So I think if someone doesn't have an Instagram, it'd be nice if we give them an email too.
Oh yeah. Larry.d.dixon6@gmail.com.
Our neighbor's helping us.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I need to drop. My wife just told me our oven's on fire and it's kind of an emergency. So I'll let you guys take it out. I got to go. Thanks for everything, Larry.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm gonna call it right there. This is a great way to finish. And
Great outro.
Larry, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun, and we'll bring you on the next couple months.
No, thanks for having me.